Remember that picture? It was a seminal moment in the history of Indian cricket and world cricket too. It was historic because it was the inaugural edition of the T20 World Cup, the newest, youngest format of the sport, a revolutionary World Cup. And historic because it saw India become champions, the first T20 World Cup champions. As India gears up for yet another World Cup in the Americas, you can't help but draw comparisons between that 2007 squad and this one this year. Where does this squad rank in comparison to that Indian setup? Why this comparison though, you may ask? Because India has not won the T20 World Cup since a very young and daring MS Dhoni led a ragtag bunch to beat the world. So I think that is very, very good reason enough to make this comparison. The one biggest differentiator right away is the lack of T20 international experience. That is obvious because the format was relatively new back then. 2007 was a unique squad. There were 6 debutants and they're coming up right behind me, of course. Few of them already well established in international cricket back then, like Yuvraj Singh and Gautam Gambhir. The others were pretty much newbies. Yusuf Pathan, retired now. RP Singh, also retired. Joginder Sharma, we don't know what happened to him post that World Cup, but he'll always be remembered as the bowler who won us that World Cup, especially in the last over. And of course, coming back to the last, it is none other than Rohit Sharma. A debutant back then, 20 years old, and now he's the captain of this side. I'll come back to this thought in just a bit to wrap up the comparison. This current 2024 T20 World Cup squad has 0 T20 debutants. That's the beauty of this. So what can we infer from it all? The biggest point here for me is that the one who made his T20 debut back then is captaining the Indian side today. Now, there are 2 ways of looking at this. 1, you got the most experienced player to lead your side. 2, you've got the oldest player to lead your side. Not any side, a T20 side, a format that is a monster version of the sport. If cricket was on steroids, it would be T20. Fast, action-packed, manic, and absolutely crazy, which brings me to the next parameter of comparison, the average age of both these squads. The average age of the 2007 World Cup squad was 23. The youngest was Piyush Chawla. He didn't get a game though, he was 18 back then. Almost everyone in their early 20s, led by a captain who was 26 years old. The average age of the 2024 Indian World Cup squad is 30. Led by a captain who's 37 years old. Now, here's what happened back then. There was a determined thought to only put forth a squad of youngsters. MS Dhoni was clear and adamant on this stance, and the board backed him. He was the captain, he wanted a young team, and so there was no Sachin Tendulkar, no Rahul Dravid, and no Sourav Ganguly. The seniors were pushed to the side, and yes, they didn't like it. They couldn't help it though. They were scorned. It was a radical thought, especially back then, to push out legendary players like the ones I've mentioned. The captain MS Dhoni wanted to be, we'll call it brave, and the board completely backed him. And of course, all of that flowed into water under the bridge, with the Indian team going on to lift the trophy. So everything forgotten, this team clearly was picked to win. Cut to the squad in present, and it's such an ironical twist in this entire story. One of those seniors who was rested is the coach now, and the board has decided to go by experience rather than young blood. Is this the right call to make? Now look, experience counts anywhere. It prepares you to take pressure. So I get the logic on that ground, but it's T20 cricket and a format that is completely different from what it started out being. Players these days have reimagined and redesigned the way sport is played. There is no impact player rule that can give you fresh legs in an innings or the luxury of an extra batter or an extra bowler to fall back on. It's just these 11 through the game, and they better be on the ball every single delivery. Just because the Chennai franchise at the Indian Premier League were able to turn the tag of Daddy's Army on its head doesn't mean every squad anywhere can do the same and replicate that magic. Age is a factor in any sport, and more so in cricket's T20 format. So horses for courses, you'd say. And even though Australia are fighting India to gain that old man's army tag, even after the squad was announced, they have roped in a young fiery batter in Jake Fraser McGurk. after his solid IPL performances. But Australia still has a legacy and a system of senior hands always being given the nod ahead. And they have World Cup titles to back this vision. It's tried and tested. Not India. They're yet to win an ICC title since MS Dhoni's treble that ended with the Champions Trophy in 2013. So, has this been an emotional or a more emotional selection process than a logical one? There is no denying that some of the seniors are legendary performers, but I somehow want to ask how calculated was this decision? And will that pay off in giving India an ICC T20 World Cup after 7 unsuccessful attempts across 17 years?
South Africa's May 29th elections.
It was the start of change in the country.
We are on the verge of history.
I am standing here at the forefront of change where voices echo the call for action. The nation grapples with an unemployment crisis. As South Africans prepare to cast their votes, the question looms, will the winds of change usher in a new era, or will the legacy of the past maintain its grip on the future?